Hello, my fellow warriors of love. I'm your host, Tarek Bibi, and this is season 2 of the world's most evolutionary podcast, From 5D to Infinity. I have not done this in a while, but we're back. Aries season's coming soon. We're in Pisces season. Tracey is a Pisces. I'm a cusp Aries Pisces. So we're kind of celebrating both our birthdays through this reunion. An old soul, old friend of mine. Like we've known each other for such a long time. One of the oldest friends I've known for the longest amount of time is what I'm trying to say. We've been through so much and been through this journey for me from the start of my entrepreneurship. But regardless of that, we're going to be talking about something really important. I was really inspired to invite Tracey to be a part of this and to relaunch the podcast based on what's happening in Palestine, in Israel, with the division that's happening with people all over the world. This is a worldwide issue. And I was seeing a lot of her posts and I was learning a lot from her posts. And I was like, okay, let's get this information. Let's get together on a podcast, create share this valuable information with the world. And as you know, stick around till the end of the interview because I'll be doing infinity healing activations to implement and integrate and activate within us, within our mindset, within our being, some of the wisdom that Tracey will be sharing. So I know I'll be writing notes throughout. Feel free to do the same. If you are someone who cares about what's happening in the world right now, this is for you to learn from someone who has so much wisdom. She's definitely an elder of our community and has so much wisdom to share. And she's such a beautiful being and doing great work in so many ways. So stick around for that. You're going to learn some new things. And my intention as you leave this call, better than you came into this call. So through those activations we'll do at the end, we will leave us more inspired, more empowered, more activated. So the title for our call today, we decided to call it Having a Healthy Relationship to Our Heritage and Spirituality is the title. And Tracey TieF, our special guest today, is a certified natural health practitioner and registered aromatherapist with an extensive background in physical therapies and the healing arts. Tracey completed a Green Goddess Apprenticeship with Susun Weed in the Catskills, New York State in the US. She was initiated as a green witch. Ooh, I want to learn more about that. And in spring 2017, Tracey completed a permaculture design certificate in earth activist training with Starhawk and Charles Williams at the O.U.R Ecovillage. That's amazing. On Vancouver Island, BC, Canada. For 8 months in 2018 and again in 2021, Tracey completed 2 folk, herbalism, and plant spirit medicine mentorships with Julie Gaia Feddes in the Carolinian Forest near Dundas, Ontario. While supplying small business, cottage industry makers, and hobbyists with natural, fairly traded ingredients, Tracey focused on her passions, teaching body care, making and providing personal and virtual in-person business and personal consultations from the Bloorcourt neighborhood of Toronto. Tracey is a practicing Jew, a history enthusiast, a fervent anti-Zionist and campaigner for human rights, and a descendant of victims of the Nazis on both sides of her lineage. So Tracey TieF, bless your heart. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Me too, Tracey. It almost didn't happen today. Definitely didn't happen last week because I caught some weird virus. So, we're here as warriors, a spiritual warrior. So yeah, just let us know. Let's start off with what was one of the things in your journey that kind of got you on the path that you're on now? I know Pisces are just naturally very tuned in and very spiritual, but was there like a catalyst that really drove you to?
Well, from the get-go, I was a mud pie girl, so I was, always making and concocting things in the backyard.
Yeah.
I asked a lot of science questions that adults were not prepared to answer. When I asked why the sky was blue, I really wanted to know. And thanks to my father, who only had a grade 2 education at the time, but he read a lot of magazines. He would tell me why the sky was blue. He would tell me about the stratosphere, and I I was also always I have like a social justice gene somehow. I started boycotting grapes when I was 6 years old because I heard about Cesar Chavez and the California grape boycott. I heard that kids and people were exposed to chemicals without any safety precautions and exploited. I,
Cesar Chavez, is that the farmer
Cesar Chavez, yeah,
who
he was the
started a whole
leader.
revolution?
I
For
think I think it was the United Migrant Workers
Got it. Great
Union.
movie, by the way, if people like movies based on true stories. First of all, that's
Mhm.
legendary that you were aware of that at age 6. And for those, like, if you guys are into movies like I am, I'll look up the movie right now, but I highly recommend
I
watching.
haven't seen the movie. I didn't know it was a movie.
I'll pull it up.
Um,
Continue. Yeah.
mhm. And so just to I was my favorite people in the world. My heroes were Helen Keller. Many people
Mhm.
don't know that she was a kind of an anarchist socialist sexual health activist
Okay.
and working journalist. So she's remembered as this like mild person you'd parade around around disability rights, but she wasn't. She was a revolutionary,
Mm.
and also uh, um, Harriet Tubman,
Mm.
who I mean, I don't think Harriet Tubman's reputation has been ruined too much by popular media, but so obviously two heroes as a child that really who really inspired me with their actions. Um, and then what's relevant to what we're going to talk about today is when I was 13 years old, we were preparing for Pesach. We were preparing for Passover at my aunt's place. And so she was cleaning the kitchen, and I saw on her, I saw some photographs on her um, living room table. I looked at them, and I saw an image of children playing in a rather dirty circumstances, like maybe in a gutter or something. And I asked my aunt Sandy, "What is this?" And it was a picture of Palestinian children. My aunt had taken a trip to Israel,
Mhm.
and she said they live like animals. And this makes me almost cry because when she said that, it broke something in our relationship.
Mhm.
The She didn't need to say more, and maybe she did say more. I don't remember because I was in shock. And I realized that people could compartmentalize their humanness.
Mhm.
I don't think I'd heard the term Zionism. I don't think I knew what it was. But when I did hear about it, I knew what it was. So, foundational to me about the project of Israel is my understanding that it requires the dehumanization
Mhm.
of other people.
Yeah.
So I never entered in very complicated ways around the politics. I never bought into it's complicated because how you treat other people isn't that complicated.
It's very simple. Yeah.
Um, so more recently, because of this ongoing genocide, sorry,
People want you on their
more, rec-
podcast, Tracy.
more recently because of this ongoing genocide, I have learned more about the politics. I but it still isn't complicated to me.
Yeah. That's a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for your humanity. Thanks for your heart, and that's a great point because we've seen this incarnation in Nazi Germany with Jews and other races. We've seen this incarnation in South Africa, and now we're seeing it in Israel. So, what would you like to share with our audience, as you know, most of them might be outsiders looking in about the current situation? Um, how did we get here? How do we break the cycle? Is to me the simplest question to ask.
If I had the answer, I'd be fixing it right now. For me, I skipped my anti-apartheid, anti-South African apartheid activism. That's where my possibly large thesis file starts. Um, but gradually learning throughout my youth um, how the world was organized contrary to all the values I'd been taught, and that was kind of a heartbreak. And I never questioned for a moment that it wasn't my role. If I'm aware of something, I should do something about it. That's what I had learned spiritually, that it's our duty once we know something to do something about it. And we can choose various ways to do something about it, but I don't think inaction is an option. It's not for me anyway.
I love that. I love that. What do you think causes someone to disassociate, like you were sharing in your story? And why is it that you are not like, why do you have the mindset of, now that I know I have to do something? And why is it that others can go, you know what, those people, you know, that's just what they're going through, and that's okay? Where is that coming from? Is it programming from childhood? Is it, where is that coming from?
I think it's selfishness often. So I see selfishness as a kind of missed expression of our survival mechanism. We do need to tune out sometimes. We need to sleep. We need to say, I need to deal with this and not with this, right? I need to take care of myself because I can't manage this. But to permanently put on blinders to suffering is privilege. Um, there are so many threads we could follow. I wanted to say um, earlier to an earlier question of yours that Zionism itself arose out of some theological, evangelical Christian theological stuff about, how will Jesus come back to earth? Well, someone kind of rewrote the New Testament and especially rewrote the Revelations of John in a Zionist way. So they created a narrative where all the Jews needed to come home to Jerusalem and that Jesus would only come back when all the Jews had come home. And then the Christians would be elevated, in the apocalypse. The Jews would be destroyed, but the true Christians would rise to heaven. With the
Wow.
so,
And this has been
so
a
so
distortion of the original?
yeah, so they literally wrote a different version.
What's the
They changed.
original version?
I mean, we can all read the Wikipedia entry on Zionism and like learn this complicated history.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not good with names, but uh, it started off as an evangelical Christian thing, and most Zionists in the world are evangelical Christians today.
Yes. Yes. So they want this to happen. They want all the Jews to go to be in Israel, because then they get to
Yes.
experience this elevation and Jesus's return, correct?
Yes. So
Why would Zionist Jews want that or none? Why
well,
would,
so we're
yeah,
just pawns in that scheme, aren't we? I mean, we're just like
yeah,
they're just throwing us under the bus after we
yeah,
come back, right?
yeah.
So fast forward, of course, there were many pogroms. Anti-Semitism is a European problem. It
Mm-hmm,
is not a Middle Eastern problem. It is not an African problem. It is not an Arab problem. It is not a Muslim problem.
mm-hmm,
Anti-Semitism is a European problem
mm-hmm,
and has always been. So we were like the different folks used for different functions in Europe.
mm-hmm,
And when there were pogroms, some secular Jews came up with the idea that we really just needed our own nation state.
mm-hmm,
They were secular, not religious. Um, we were being blamed, Jews in Europe were being blamed at the time for socialism, for unionizing. We were being blamed for communism. It was just a new version of how we were like ending all good things, you know?
the
Um,
scapegoats, yeah.
yeah. And so pogroms were real destructions of communities. They were really scary. There were many times throughout European history where Jews were expelled en masse or even massacred. Um, Most notably, we were always rescued by Muslims,
Mm-hmm,
especially during the Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition. Um, Jews got to move to the Ottoman Empire, you know, enjoy something close to equal citizenship. Um, Anyway, so fast
Can we
forward,
just pause that for 1 second?
yeah, yeah.
So, first of all, when I go to Google anti-Semitism, the first 10 entries do not include Arabs in the definition of Semites. So, I want I want everyone to know that they're trying to wipe. Like apparently now in Canada, when you go to renew your passport, if you have a if you had a Palestinian document, we don't even have passports, but if you had a Palestinian document, you can't it no longer gives you the option to click Palestine. So they're trying to wipe it out in that sense as well. But even in the definition of Semite people, they're also trying to erase the Arab part of it. But anti-Semitism, hostility towards or discrimination against Jews as a religious group or race. Although the term anti-Semitism has wide currency, it is regarded by some as a misnomer implying discrimination against all Semites, which include Arabs and other people who are not the targets of anti-Semitism as it usually is understood. So the Semitic people are the people of that region, right? So my granddad was born in Jaffa, which is people pronounce it Jaffa, had a Jewish neighbor. He was born Muslim, but there was a time, and in still parts of the world, Jews, Christians, Muslims coexist. Examples could be Morocco.
Most of the time,
Most of
most
the
of
time,
human history, because
yeah.
I think there's
But
two parts going
just
on
to be
here.
clear, it was never an issue at his time, pre-1948, when the UK came and said, okay, we need to solve this problem that's happening in Germany with the extermination of the Jews and Hitler. We need a safe place for them. Fair enough. But and then my granddad moved to Lebanon, but pre-1948, my dad grows up in Lebanon. Sorry, pre-1948, my granddad peacefully Palestine peacefully coexisting, Arabs, Jews, Christians. He had a Jewish neighbor who would take care of a German Shepherd whenever he needed it. There's no issue because there's more in common than there is not. Jews and Jews, Christians, Muslims, despite what the media is trying to say, all worship the same God. Just in Arabic, the word God is Allah. People think there's a big misconception that Allah is this
And
separate.
said, Jesus said Allah
Did he really? Wow.
because it's anyway, because Jesus spoke Aramaic.
Yes. And
So
in the
I mean,
Quran, they talk
you're
about
more
Moses.
Semitic than I am.
Yeah.
If we're going back to this Semitic thing.
Yeah.
You're more Semitic than I am. But there's two parts to this problem. One
Yeah.
is that the reason why anti-Semitism is a word that's been used for anti-Jewish sentiment is because anti-Semitism is a European problem.
Mm,
So if you're looking at Europe and that's your focus is Europe, they are anti-Semitic against the only Semites who were
yeah,
settled for 2,000 years
yeah,
in Europe.
yeah.
Um, when we move the focus to the Middle East, it no longer makes any sense.
Mhm.
So I think that's why the term evolved the way it did.
Yeah, yeah.
The second piece to this is that the Jewish there are different stories. There's different threads happening in Jewish scriptures. One of the sort of nation building threads is God told us to take this land, and we went in and we won, and we battled these people and we won, and we annihilated these people and we won. And so there's that kind of thread going on.
Yeah.
But at the exact same time, there's like um, Naomi and Ruth saying, "Your people should be my people,"
Mm,
and I married a Moabite, and we went and hung out with these people, and we went and hung out with these people, and if you look at the history of the Levant, all you have are many different peoples. The borders and the nation states move around, but there's always all these different tribes.
mhm.
And for the most part, they're not killing each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, people were in a multicultural, pretty tight multicultural space for
Mhm,
a really long time.
mhm,
So you can follow one of the threads, which the secular Zionists love to do. You can follow one of these more violent threads in Jewish scriptures and say, "See, you were told to annihilate Amalek and expel the Moabites." You can follow that thread,
mhm.
but that's picking and choosing. First of all, secular Zionists are not religious. They actually don't care about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about it. They're not putting it together. But secondly, that's just one thread. Um, and you can read the story of God giving us this land, showing us this land, and telling us that we need to go and share it.
Mm,
We need to go find a place within it.
mhm,
It doesn't have to be a story of conquest. And in historical fact, it wasn't.
mhm.
So, but once we start talking about who's a Semite and you're more Semite and da da
Right,
da,
right.
I think it gets to be a bit of a distraction.
Yeah.
The fact is that the Zionists were they had good reason to not want to be pogromed and killed and restricted in Europe, and so they were looking for a solution. There already existed tons of people who were like, "Yeah, hell yeah, you guys go away. We'll help you go away."
Mm,
And so they were thinking, should we find a place in South America to go? Should we make a homeland in Uganda? Should we make a homeland? And so it so happened, and it was a fit because they could make a historical story out of it.
yeah.
It was a fit for Britain to give Palestine, which they had to give up anyway,
Yeah.
to give it to the Jews.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, the Zionists made a deal with Hitler that 30,000 Jews could leave at Germany's expense, Germany, to be settled in Palestine. And they were going to be given an allowance, like coupons, to buy German household goods to help them settle.
Wow.
So the Zionists and the Nazis, they were both on the same page. Jews out of Europe. So Israel was the state, the modern state of Israel was, in a sense, the final solution for all of Europe.
Mhm.
And that paints a pretty grim picture of Zionism so far, right?
Yeah, yeah,
We're
100%.
being thrown under the bus by evangelical Christians.
Yeah.
so that they can do the rapture thing. Or the Nazis are just trying to get rid of us, and the British are just trying to get rid of us.
Yeah.
What happened? World War II was probably a good example of like a shock doctrine, disaster capitalism kind of thing for the modern state of Israel, because here's an excuse, right? Here's this terrible event. Here's a real reason to say, yes, we need this state because look, they're killing us again.
Yeah.
They're killing us en masse. We will never be safe um, unless we have our own space.
Mhm.
It's a very paranoid place to be stuck. But at least most Jews responded to that in diaspora. Most Jews responded to that by saying, no, actually, we just want to be equal citizens where we live.
Mhm.
Like, that's our destiny. We're in diaspora. We've been gone 2,000 years. We want to make the societies we live in better.
Mhm.
There's always been that division between Jews, always. So it's not accidental that half the Jews on the planet are not in Israel, don't go to Israel, are not citizens.
Yeah.
There's a philosophical core that says we're a religion, not a race, not a nation. We're a religion,
Mhm.
and we're multi-ethnic.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're multi-ethnic, and we're multiracial. If you want to say that different skin colors mean race, there are different kinds of African Jews. There are different kinds of Western Asian Jews. There are Arab Jews.
That's a
And
good
they're
point
all
that a lot of people don't know, Tracy. I've met several people who were from Israel, and when I would mention that my granddad was born in Jaffa, and I would ask where their parents were from, it's very common in my experience at least to hear that they would say, oh, I'm half, like my mom's a Syrian Jew or my dad's a Syrian Jew. Or so I just want people to know that there are tons of Arabic countries that used to have, because think about it, all three Abrahamic religions stem from those regions. So you've got Judaism,
Mhm.
which is highly respected in the Islamic culture. That's the founding fathers, right? So there's
Mhm.
reverence, there's respect, there's honoring, and then you've got Christianity that came after Jesus, and then there's
Right,
Islam.
but Islam holds all of those
All
traditions.
three, yeah,
And so I know that we all, not just Jews, but we all have been trained to see Islam alongside terrorism.
yeah,
But Islam is a beautiful, hopeful container
yeah.
because again, it's a religion, it's multi-ethnic, it's multiracial, it's pluralistic. There's a lot
Mhm.
of hope in that.
Yeah, and there's shadows of everything. Like, so with this Islamic history, there is this like become Muslim or else kind of thing as it was spreading. I don't know the exact stats, but they were able to spread their way of thinking, and because they believed in it so wholeheartedly, and they spread it to the rest of the world. Like it's reached. So, like I was in Portugal the last year, and I noticed they left some stuff there. Spain, you've got Gibraltar, which actually is Jebel Tariq, which means the mountain of Tariq, which is where my name comes from. But yeah, so there's a shadow to that, and then there's a beautiful lightness to that when you share stories of, like, the Arabs protected the Jews, that you know that they weren't like ruthless. But then there's also, and then same thing with the beautiful Jewish people. Every time I meet them, they're like, oh my God, Palestinian, come be my friend. And like it breaks our heart what's happening in Israel. And a lot of them are supporters. I mean, you're wearing you're wearing the hatta right now. So it's like, it's beautiful to witness that. Like it, yes, thank you. That's
I
beautiful.
made this button. It's a little obscure. It's a hamsa,
Yes.
and it says self-loving Jew for a free Palestine.
Ooh, I love that. I
Because
love that.
what
If you don't say
Zionists,
self-loving, they'll say you're a self-hating Jew if you're
yeah, because that's what they always say is if you're Jewish but you're not pro-Israel, you're self-hating,
yeah.
as if I am the state of Israel.
So, Tracy, so the other part, I don't know if this came across in your research, but why were Europeans having a hard time with certain Jews? It's almost like I feel, based on my research, that there's a group of people hiding behind Judaism, and they're like a handful, and they're tainting the whole term Jewish, like the whole, they just hide behind it, and they do whatever they need to do to
Yeah,
and
you mentioned shadow side, right?
yes.
I think I think that it doesn't sound very positive, but I think we have to start off by saying that a lot of people are willfully unthinking,
Hmm.
right? A lot
Hmm.
of people just like cruise through life on entropy, and then and some people are really greedy, some people are really mean, some people are sociopaths, right?
Hmm.
uh Arguably, I think that the highest percentage of sociopaths is found among corporate owners,
Yeah.
right? So, and maybe there's a
Profits
lot of
above
narcissists.
people, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot of sociopaths in politics as well.
Yeah, which means like profit above humanity, right?
Exactly, like
Yeah.
like people with antisocial behavior
Yeah.
and values.
Yeah.
So there's no race, religion, creed, country that is going to be free
Yeah.
of these. In you might term them Wendigo. There's an idea of these people
Like,
who are crazy and cannibalistic. In certain
yes.
indigenous stories, they're called Wendigo. I mean, so, and then there's another tradition that calls these sorts of people Hasnamus. But in any case, they're human beings who are not doing any of the human values. They're not aspiring to be better humans, and they're exploiting things.
Hmm.
And I think there are people who happen to be Arab and happen to be Jewish and happen to be
Worldwide.
Han Chinese and happen to be, whatever,
Yeah.
with these problems. Now, when we were in smaller, more tribal societies, if somebody was acting really poorly like that, we might be able to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
But we don't have good systems for accountability
Yeah.
right now for whatever reason. There are human flaws, they're shared amongst us.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a bit more to the story of the the anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish trope about being greedy and hoarding money, and like you can see this in the Harry Potter movies.
Really?
The Gringotts Bank,
Oh,
that's all like nauseatingly anti-Semitic.
wow.
Um, and even the symbolism at the Gringotts Bank, it's very creepy. But
Sure.
so this goes very deep into European symbolism and consciousness.
Hmm.
But because Roman Catholic Church did not allow people to loan money at an interest,
Hmm.
Europe needed, and even the church and the states needed a group of people who would do banking,
Hmm.
because essentially no one else was allowed to do banking.
Okay.
So they would invite Jews, for instance, to England
Yeah.
to do banking,
Yeah.
right? To finance things and to bank. And they would be directly accountable to the king, and they didn't necessarily, they weren't under the same laws as everybody else.
Yeah.
So there's already this kind of suspicious separation.
Hmm.
um, Plus the religious activities were very different, food was different, and at that time probably there was a bit of a difference in appearance as well. um, and then as soon as the tide turned, the public turned, someone else was able to invest. Uh, they might massacre people or kick them all out or both.
Yeah.
And so Jews bounced around Europe like that
Okay.
for more than 1,000 years. Uh, and because people wanted to live like in their own villages or whatever, that also increased the separation.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
because I've
there's
noticed people getting shut down. There's a famous Palestinian rapper from Toronto. He's in the States now. His name's Belly. Born on the same day as I am, and I think on his first album he had a song called on his first album he had a song called it was like pro-Palestinian, and he was a music industry artist. So it's his reaching a bigger population, and then he talks about all his shows getting canceled after that, and this is early. And then you've got um, a few podcasts that I know, they mention something that ruffles maybe these banking families that you're referring to or something, but there's this big like shut it down energy that happens whenever someone's like, I wonder what's behind this door over here, and then it gets shut
right.
down.
Fast forward to fast forward to the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century. A lot of European Jews were like leaving Europe
Mhm.
and especially Russia,
Yeah.
and they were shut out of most employment and industries. So
Mhm.
what could they do? Well, at the time, movies was thought of as like just
Hollywood.
one little titch above pornography, right?
Okay.
Movies were like really scummy, bad art,
Okay.
but Jewish people were able to go and start these movie studios
Mhm.
and record companies, etc. So,
Yeah.
in fact, there are a lot of Jews in Hollywood. It's
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of Jews in the recording industry because of that history of exclusion.
Yeah.
And it so happened that they made it,
Yeah, it's so inspiring. I watched a
Fast forward
documentary
again
last
to
week about the early founding fathers of Hollywood and how ambitious they were, and how it's actually a very beautiful story. It's the immigrant story of like the American dream. It's very inspiring.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were able to tell kind of likenesses of stories about struggles for liberation and oppression that
Hmm.
were based on Jewish values.
Hmm.
But here's the problem.
Yeah.
Now, because of a very, very deliberate 100 or more years of Zionist propaganda, people think to be Jewish, you must be Zionist.
Hmm.
And that if you are not Zionist, you're not a good Jew. You must support the state of Israel. And it's very, very deliberate that Zionists have adopted the racializing language of European anti Semitism to say that Jews are a race or to say that Jews are a nation. It's a religion,
Yeah.
it's not even an ethnicity. Like 40% of Baghdad was Jewish,
But they're Iraqis
Jewish Arabs.
first. They're Arabs
And then
first.
the Zionists, there was a court case about this. So it was proven
Yeah.
that the Zionists, uh, in the Zionists caused some violence in Baghdad, and then offered to and it just offered to airlift everybody out, airlift all the Jews out of Baghdad
So create the problem.
because of this violence that they had paid for
Okay.
and made happen. And they pulled the same stunt in Morocco. They pulled the same stunt all kinds of places.
How does that serve
So
them to have these Jews that are happily coexisting with
because
other Iraqis and Moroccans?
because a handful of European Jews had arrived in Palestine and looked around and said, "We don't know how to farm.
Hmm.
Where are all the brown people who know how to farm?"
Okay.
And in their European racism, if they kicked out the Palestinians, oh no, how are we going to farm?
got it.
You know,
The Arab
um,
Jews
well,
helped that.
let's go get some brown Jews. Maybe
Okay.
they know how to farm.
God.
And so they went and got their African Jews,
Yeah.
their Moroccan Jews, their Arab Jews
Yeah.
who were shopkeepers
Yeah.
and jewelers
Got it.
and tailors and shoemakers, but they weren't farmers.
Yeah.
They were like really urban people.
Yeah.
Um, so the layering of racism
Mhm.
within the state of Israel has always been there.
Mhm.
And so-called Mizrahi Jews, brown skinned Jews are not over it. In
Yeah.
no way. I mean, when
There's a
people tell
hierarchy.
that when people tell that story, it is vivid,
Okay.
absolutely vivid. They know they were used.
Mm. Mhm.
Um, by ideologues, uh, and then as soon as a lot of the as more and more Ashkenazi, meaning European Jews, and especially Jews from America came over, you'd get the greedy ones
Mhm.
floating to the top, the sociopaths becoming the government. And this is where a program of dehumanization was necessary,
Yeah.
because you have to displace people
Mhm.
in order to take their stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea of Israel being, a land without a people for a people without a land is the biggest thing of hogwash you can imagine, because all you have to do is see that the Levant has been like heavily, intensively populated
Mhm.
by many different peoples for thousands of years. There's no way you can tell history without telling that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think we all know the history of displacing 750,000 of Palestinians in 1947 and 48,
Yeah.
and the program of dehumanizing Palestinians has never stopped.
Yeah.
And here we arrive at this moment where the leaders in modern Israel are literally calling people animals.
Mhm.
Uh, speaking of people in explicitly dehumanizing ways.
Mhm. And it's being taught a lot of times. People in the Arab world will kind of react to, like, to me, I empathize, not empathize, but I sympathize maybe, or I, like, my heart says, why is it that, an innocent child born in Israel grows up not just saying, I want to defend and protect my country like American citizens do, some American citizens do, that's fine. But when you add that extra sauce of, I want to wipe out Palestinians, they are less than human, that's not, a child is not born with that, right? And it's on the flip side, like, it's a mindset that exists on our planet. But to so to me, I go, America and Israel are probably the most, there's a lot of indoctrination happening at a very early age to disconnect that heart from you can't control the heart, but you can control the mind. So if they indoctrinate children at an early age to believe that this other race is lesser than, is the enemy, America is able to do it through cartoons with, with black people, native people, and Hollywood movies with, Vietnamese, right? It's like, then it became the Arabs. Like, anyone who was a threat, you could just use media to desensitize, dehumanize, and you're almost brainwashing people to go, these people are a little different. It's okay if we kill them. And so that's not,
I would say that
yeah.
it's more planned than that, and some people like legit think it through, and they're like, yes, in order to prepare people to accept this atrocity that we want to do.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about it this way
Yeah.
until they get used to it. It's not accidental,
It's
is
not
what I'm saying.
very
And a
intense.
lot of times, these racisms, these oppressive mindsets are given to us like it's human nature.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything could be more blasphemous
Mhm. Mhm.
than to say that oppression is human nature.
Yeah.
I think the child that you were painting a picture of wants everyone in their world to be safe.
Yeah.
That's all they want. There isn't a nation or a race or a name to ascribe to wanting the people around you to be safe.
Mhm.
And it is nationalism, to me, is a perversion. It's a blasphemy.
Mhm.
I don't stand for the Canadian national anthem. Uh, I won't sing it,
Same.
and that's been a very embarrassing thing sometimes. Uh, I know the privilege I have as a settler Canadian.
Mhm.
I try to stay in that knowledge, but I won't be proud of something that I'm just lucky about.
Yeah.
I was lucky to be born in a place with a lot of privilege.
Yes.
It's not something I earned, you
Yes.
know? Um, I could explain a lot about it, but back when I was confronted by one of my kids' schools about not standing properly for the national anthem,
Mhm.
I blurted out, that nationalism to me was the reason why we had Nazism.
So you're learning from from the mistakes of history. You're breaking the cycle.
I think so. And so the the nationalism of Israel is toxic.
Yeah.
Um, it's hard to explain such a basic concept, but uh, the idea that one people is superior from another is the origin of all sorts of evil.
That also has it's being reincarnated, recreated, and so because now it's some Jews believe, well, Jews believe they are the chosen people, which could be misinterpreted as we are above others, and then therefore it's okay to do what, it's okay. We're the chosen, and then it's so ironic because Nazi Germany was preaching the same thing about we're the superior race, and I'm also seeing it kind of infiltrate into the new age, which I am an ex-new ager, because they're like, but we're the special star seeds, like everyone else are like on a different category. So it's a mindset, right? It's a mindset of better than, lesser than, right? So it is a disease of the mind, I believe. It is a
The
mindset.
best way I heard this expressed, I think it was Chief Poundmaker, uh, and he said, we should all follow our original instructions.
Mhm.
And so when I heard that, I thought, yes, it makes sense. Like we were each of our peoples were given our original instructions. It
Mm.
doesn't mean that they're better instructions. They're
Mhm.
just ours.
Yeah.
And so Jewish anti-Zionists say we're a chosen people because we were chosen to follow these mitzvah.
Mm.
We were chosen to have these duties and these roles.
Mhm.
We're not chosen to be superior.
Mm.
We're chosen to follow these original instructions
Mm.
that are ours to follow.
Yeah.
And the
Tracey.
biggest in
Yeah.
the biggest instruction, I know we need to break for a bit, but the biggest instruction is do not do what is hateful to you. This is the whole of the Torah.
Mm. Do not do what is hateful to you.
Do not do what is hateful to you. Do not
Yeah.
do to others what is hateful to you.
Mm. I feel at the core of Islam, Judaism, Christianity, there's such beautiful principles of non-violence, loving, caring, being a good person, having a good relationship with God, treating others well. Like those are, it's very basic, but they're beautiful pillars that you can, you know, like in the music industry, there's a lot of darkness, and the fact that they're trying to ban the word Jesus from artists being able to use, and it shows you there's a dark side. And this is not about a race; it's just the industry has its like dark side, and um, it's beautiful. I love people of faith because I feel there it with that comes I'm not going to be compromised by the dark forces. That's my biggest takeaway from religion. It's not so much, and I kind of excommunicate. I pulled out from my own faith. I no longer associated myself with being Muslim because I was born that way. My mom's my mom was born Christian, and I just started to just become I'm open to all things. But one thing I loved about that was we were taught about the jinn. We were taught about dark spirits that like whisper and try to divide and conquer us, and I love that it prepared us because to me, the warfare we're in now, yeah, there's a physical version, but to me, the most important one is the spiritual warfare we're all in. And I remember posting a lot when there was a lot of divide and conquer amongst Jews and Arabs, or like pro-Palestinian and all that. There was such divide. And I was like, guys, it is spiritual warfare. And we all need to come together because we all actually have a common enemy that is trying to divide and conquer us. If we wake up to that truth that we are all being divided and conquered and manipulated for something else's gain, something else is winning here. We're not winning. So if we realize that we have a common force that is against love, then we can all unite in solidarity for love. And it's very simplistic, but I think it requires us to dive deep and go, okay, what are my morals? What am I really like? Am I compromising what I know in my heart? No one can, like when you were a kid and you just felt that empathy, you can't like enforce empathy. Empathy's there. It's in our heart, in our soul. We got to maybe get out of our beliefs and programming and just really get into that heart that just knows right from wrong. And we all have made mistakes in our past, and I think this is a beautiful time for us to forgive ourselves and others for the things of our past. The work we're doing, Tracey, is going and blessing our whole lineage, going all the way back, and for the future generations, which is really supposed to be what this is all about, like your child, your daughter, and future generations. And yeah, I'd just love to conclude with I have a video here that I can play that just goes to share that rate like feeling like treating Arabs lesser than, because I remember after September 11th I would wear the Palestinian hatta on my head just to be like, yes, I am Muslim, and if you have something to say, like come and say it to me, even though I wasn't really Muslim. But I was like, I'm not going to hide now that like Arab is a bad word and Muslim is a bad word. I'm not going to hide. I'm going to wear that with pride and just transcend that fear program that they want us to be ashamed and hide. And I would love for every race, I would love if someone's proud Israeli, like be proud of that. If you're proud Arab Palestinian, be proud of that. If you're a Jew who's a pro-Palestinian and loves their Jewish heritage, that's beautiful. Be proud of that.
But I would like to say, like, I know that it's a kindness of you that you would like to say, if you're Israeli, be proud of that. If you're making an equivalence because you're kind,
mm,
but there is no equivalence to how people live on either side of that wall.
mm, yeah.
People in Israel live very, very well with great privilege. There's a lot of white privilege there. There's a lot of dual citizenship privilege, and there's a lot of wealth. And
Mm-hmm.
on the other side, Gaza has been described as an open air prison camp.
Well,
So
I would challenge that,
I don't want to
Tracy.
make an
Yes,
equivalence. I want to
100%. And I
say
would challenge that about the
people
open
live.
prison, because prison refers to people who have done something wrong. You know what I mean?
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so so even more sensitive a word, which I don't disagree with, would be concentration camp,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it, I think it's truthful.
Yeah.
And so I just want to be careful that I don't need you to say that Jews are not privileged, and I do not need you to say that Israelis are in some way equally suffering.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's a
Yes.
colonial project that's oppressing people
Yeah.
and occupying people and genociding people.
Yeah.
And I'm here as a Jew to say we are responsible for that. We've got to take care of our own people too.
Yeah.
Jewish people, we have to hold Israel accountable.
Yes, and the whole world needs to step up because our politicians are all compromised, unfortunately. And it's a whole rabbit hole where I feel like they have compromised. They intentionally have kind of blackmail opportunities for so many people in high positions. If you study Jeffrey Epstein, Mossad agent, has invited the most powerful people all to his island. So
It's,
it's
I mean, it's not even a secret conspiracy,
a
is it?
secret
I
conspiracy.
mean,
It's
it's the
fact.
way things work.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you really get what Epstein was all about, that means all these people in positions of power, this group has them by the balls, meaning they're not going to speak what is right for humanity. They're going to say, oh, okay, whatever you want. You've got me blackmailed here. I don't want that footage to come out. Oh, you want more money? Here's more money. You want me to shut my mouth? I'll shut my mouth. So all these protests where I see people just like yelling and shouting in front of these government agencies, like let's use our energy better, because those people will die before facing the fear of being exposed for whatever compromising footage they have of these people. So we can't rely on government anymore. It's us, the people, coming together. And I'm curious to know what are some, I know there's a boycott movement where we're being very intentional. Okay, let's at a bare minimum vote with our dollars. If I know Starbucks is sending money supporting, the army or however that works, let me not at least put my money towards things that are going to go and harm other people. I think that's one basic solution I've been pushing from day one. But in terms of solutions or things to go and read, what do you, because I know there's a lot of people who are like, I feel powerless, I want to do something. We can all pray,
Well,
I pray every day.
we can't all do everything all the time.
Yes.
So
What can we
like
do?
what are you called to do? So we should
Mhm.
think, what can I do?
Yeah.
I'm banned nationwide by Starbucks for talking about their role in Guantanamo Bay.
Wow.
So I'm not going there anyway.
Okay.
But, there was a time when we might have gone to Indigo
Yeah.
Books, and Indigo Books owners fund people to go and join the IDF. And so that's a hard no for the family now, for our family now.
Yeah.
Uh, Boycott, divestments, and sanctions are probably the most important tool towards a permanent cessation of Israeli apartheid.
Mhm.
It's what brought down South African apartheid.
Mhm.
And taking away the money, the funding, the arms is the only thing that Israel will hear,
Mhm.
because the modern state of Israel has no moral care. They're not religious,
Mhm.
and they have no moral care for what the world says to them.
Yeah.
The only thing they will hear is if we take away their money.
It's a business. Yeah.
And we have got, through yelling in the streets repeatedly, we have got something, Tarek.
Mhm.
This past week,
Mhm.
Canada called for a ceasefire. Canada called to stopped sending arms and money for arms.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
we
a huge one.
refunded UNRWA.
Wow.
And that was because Canadians have been screaming.
Thank you. I take that back
So
then.
at a certain point, our politicians, no matter how bribed they are, no matter how many times they're afraid that we'll see Bill Clinton in a dress, and dude, I have pictured you in worse positions. I don't fucking care if you're in a dress.
Yeah.
You can give it up now, right? Everybody's facing you in far worse than whatever Epstein's got on you.
Yeah, yeah,
Our
yeah.
politicians do have to hear at a certain point,
Yeah.
and when we're screaming at them, this time they heard.
Mm.
But ultimately, what I think in my heart of hearts I want, and I hope the rest of the world comes to want this too, is one pluralistic, democratic state of Palestine, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
where Arabs and Jews and Muslims and Druze and Zoroastrians and Samaritans and Christians are equal citizens
Mhm.
and go through a process of healing like Truth and Reconciliation in South Africa,
Mhm.
go through a process of healing so they can be that pluralistic, democratic state.
Mhm. I love it. Tracy, before we conclude, is there any movie, book, documentary that you would recommend folks diving in to get a bit more information? I Googled the movie you were talking about earlier. It's called Caesar Chavez.
Okay.
Very inspiring
I
movie.
have to see the movie.
What's
I
that?
just heard about it as I have to see the movie. I just heard about it as a kid.
Yeah, great. I think you'd like it
Yeah,
because you get to visually see it.
I know one grape's worth of the story.
Oh,
I would recommend listening to Naomi Klein.
Naomi Klein.
Naomi Klein. So she's from Toronto. She's a Jew. She's an anti-Zionist Jew. She
Okay.
wrote No Logo, but right now I've been reading Doppelganger.
Okay.
But she wrote The Shock Doctrine.
Okay. Naomi Klein.
And if you read The Shock Doctrine, you'll be like, ooh, oh my goodness, that's exactly what Netanyahu's playing out right
Okay.
now.
Thank you.
Um,
Beautiful. And
and
shout outs to Naomi Klein
yeah,
being a Canadian activist and author. That's awesome.
and listen to the new historians, the Israeli new historians.
Okay. There's
Um,
historians.
and you can just you can find them on YouTube
Yeah.
very easily and just listen to their story about what Israel is and how it came to be and how it's going.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you. Tracy, for folks who don't know about all your superpowers and all the magic that you have in your with your products, with your services. I remember I used to get like the little gift packages from your store and gift them to family and friends. And please let us know what are some of the things that you offer folks.
Well, I make all kinds of body care from fancy creams and lotions down to like toothpaste. um, and so I love to make things. I love to teach people how to make things.
Yeah.
And most notably, I have a student coming from Iran. Inshallah, he will get his visa this time because he's been
Oh,
applying over and over again
okay.
to study perfumery with me. So
Wow.
I have a bunch of classes, 7 classes, workshops planned for May,
Yeah.
um, with a student coming all the way from Iran.
Beautiful. Are you saying
So,
Iran or Iraq?
Iran.
Okay, that's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so how to make your
From
own
Persia.
perfumes, soaps, deodorants, all
We
of
are gonna learn to make incenses, personal
incenses.
perfumes,
Yeah.
mojo massage oils.
Beautiful.
We're gonna learn to make individual prescriptions.
Okay.
And then all the things that we think of as perfume, eau de cologne, eau fraîche, oil perfume. Uh, uh, I'm losing my language because I'm speaking French now.
Oh,
Um, Spray perfumes,
yes.
alcohol-based perfumes. We're gonna learn all of that,
Okay,
and it will be very special because we'll have a perfumer all the way from Persia with us,
that's beautiful.
and everything that we use will be natural.
And it's only in person, it's not live streamed, right?
It's only in person.
Yes, so
Has
Toronto,
its experience.
for the Toronto
Has its
tribe or Canadian tribe or even people close that want to drive down, it's worth it. So
I've
we're
had people come from all over the world.
I mean, you got someone come from Iran, so it makes sense. Tracey, they can just Google YouTube, Google Anaris Health. Anaris
AnarisHealth.ca.
Health.
So, so you
Anaris is
just
spelled
remember
A-N-A.
ANARRES.
Yeah, got it.
I don't know if I
And
spelled that right, but
yeah, you did. Anarres. You got it.
so one
Anaris Health.
N and two R's.
Yes. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Your services, I know we met back in the days when I was training, doing a hypnotherapy training. In terms of services, if people are having challenges, what type of one-on-one consultation services are you offering?
I like to help people find well, skincare that works for them.
Yeah.
I do have a broad background in healthcare, so if people have a problem they want to address with alternative modalities, I can do a consultation and help people tell people what their options are,
Mhm.
particularly around issues of so-called hormone imbalance,
Okay.
hormone balancing,
That's a
and
huge
then
problem.
I also like to help people find essential oil blends
Hmm.
that will help them.
Okay.
So so what we call individual prescription, although I don't want to make it sound medical,
Hmm.
in holistic aromatherapy, it's called individual prescription.
Okay.
So I love to do all those things with people.
Love it. I'm just here on your website. It looks so good. And then you've got the uh, essential oil blends, perfumes, incenses, sexual health, contraception, healthy water filters, events and workshops, learn how to make your own tools and yeah, like your own body care
Mhm.
things, which is amazing. These are skills that we need for the new earth, Tracey. I really feel at some point things can shift
Yes.
so drastically. We need to
It's
remember
a
how.
way we can take our money away from these corporations who behave like sociopaths
Exactly. Support the mom and pop shops. Support the good
and treat
people.
other people fairly.
Yeah.
Treat people who create these ingredients fairly as well,
Yeah.
because that's important. I don't think there's any good at all in a crystal that an enslaved 6-year-old Congolese child
Yeah.
was made to pick at the butt of a gun.
100%.
You see, we need a bigger world. We need to see the energy that comes to us in a longer thread.
Yeah. I love it. Let's get off of Amazon and let's support the people like yourself who are creating real good stuff. So thank you, Tracey. I appreciate your time, your energy, your wisdom, your
Thank
being.
you.
Yeah, I salute you and your future generations and your ancestral lineage, and all that you are and all that you do. You're a local hero. I feel like you're a hero. I feel like I'm inspired by you. You're doing great things. You're a great human being. We're blessed to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel very blessed to know you, Tarek. Thank
Uh,
you.
Welcome. All right, Tracey. Guys, check out those links. We'll put all these links below, and I'm going to conclude us with a beautiful song for Palestine. And before we do that, we're going to do an infinity healing. All you need to do is say yes to activate this. And this is God, source, universe, whatever word you use for the divine, creating these activations for you. Starting now, would you like an infinity healing to have the healthiest relationship with yourself, with your ancestral lineage, with your culture, with your religion, with your uh, with your future generations? Would you like that?
Yes.
Yes. Would you like an infinity healing to increase your awareness, your consciousness, and become just very intentional with the money that you are spending and making sure you're spending your money towards things that have that good karmic energy, that are supporting real people, and just being very mindful with our finances, with the money that we're circulating, and supporting the farmers, supporting people like Tracey, and just being very aware of where our morals are in terms of, okay, this is against my morals, I will not support it. Just, would you like an infinity healing for that?
Yes.
Yes. And would you like an infinity healing, like Tracey said? What is your part in this spiritual evolution that we're in? What are you feeling guided to play in what's your role in all of this? So would you like an infinity healing to know your role and to play that role to the fullest? Would you like that?
Yes.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. I appreciate you, Tracey. Keep shining, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Peace, Bob.
Much love. That's what I want. All right, I'm going to conclude us with a song, guys. Enjoy. Let me see if I get this right. I always get tripped up around this part. Share sound. Okay, here we go. Enjoy, guys. I love you.
Only do this if we standing as one. Can you look into the mirror, face what you done when the world was falling? Did you hear them calling? Cause they were calling out to you and everyone. We can only do this if we standing as one. Can you look into the mirror, face what you done when the world was falling? Did you hear them calling? Cause they were calling out to you and everyone. Trying my hardest, but I can't just watch it. It's too hard to follow, and that's just a pill that's too hard to swallow. I know that we can stand for peace if you follow me. River to the sea is free fall this thing till the day I die, till the very end. I'm hearing, I'm calling out to you and everyone. We can only do this if we standing as one. Can you look into the mirror, face what you done when the world was falling? Did you hear them calling? Cause they were calling out to you and everyone. We can only do this if we standing as one. Can you look into the mirror, face what you done when the world was falling? Did you hear them calling? Cause they were calling out to you and everyone. Times they did this before, but I still try to hold on to my hope that you get them crying down.